Security really dropped the ball tonight. Looks like anyone can sneak in. Even her Charlotte Whitmore's voice cut through the Metropolitan Ballroom as her elbow slipped into a dessert tray. 6 slices of chocolate cake crashed against Dr. Danielle Harris's tailored black suit, frosting dripping onto the marble floor. Gasps rippled across the crowd. Phones shot up instantly, their screens glowing. Danielle stood motionless, not a word. Not a flinch. She plucked a linen napkin from the nearest table and wiped her cheek with calm precision. The stain spread dark across her jacket, ruining the fabric. Charlotte tilted her head, smiling sweetly for the cameras. "Oh dear, what a shame." Madison and Brittany giggled, recording every second. Guests whispered, "Who is she? Why hasn't she left?" The ballroom fell silent except for the clicks of cameras. Danielle met Charlotte's stare, steady and unyielding, while hundreds of eyes and lenses watched, waiting for the next move. The security checkpoint was the first test. While white guests walked through with quick nods and warm smiles, Danielle got treated very differently. The guard stared at her invitation much longer than needed, his fingers tracing each fancy letter like he was looking for a fake. "What's your reason for being here tonight, ma'am?" His tone was polite, but somehow felt much colder than what she'd seen with other guests just moments before. "Business meeting," Danielle said smoothly, not giving extra details. She'd learned long ago that explaining too much just brought more questions, not fewer. The guard made a phone call, speaking quietly while pointing at her. 2 minutes turned into 5, then 8. Behind her, a line started forming. Other guests getting impatient with the wait. Their whispers carried just far enough. "What's taking so long? Never seen her before. Probably works for one of the catering companies." When approval finally came, it was with a grudging nod and no sorry for the long wait. Danielle just smiled, the same calm look that had gotten her through countless similar moments in her career. Inside the ballroom, the subtle rejections continued. Waiters carrying champagne glasses somehow missed her raised hand twice before she managed to get one. Conversations died sudden deaths when she walked over, only to start up again with new energy once she moved away. Business cards that came out freely for other networking attempts stayed tucked away in pockets when she tried to chat. The patterns were so familiar they felt almost planned. Not mean, exactly, just the unconscious machinery of exclusion working with well-oiled efficiency. In tech boardrooms, she'd gotten used to being the only black woman in rooms full of white men. But this felt different, more personal somehow. Here, she wasn't just professionally isolated, she was socially invisible. "Excuse me, I don't believe we've met." The voice belonged to a woman in her late 20s, blonde and perfectly put together in a way that spoke of old money and professional styling. Her red Chanel dress probably cost more than most people's monthly salary, and she wore it with the easy confidence of someone who'd never questioned her right to be anywhere. Charlotte Whitmore held out a manicured hand, but her smile never quite reached her eyes. "I'm Charlotte Whitmore. And you are?" "Danielle Harris." The handshake was brief and businesslike. "Harris. I'm trying to place the name. Are you in fashion? Media?" Charlotte's head tilted with practiced curiosity, but her eyes were doing their own evaluation, looking at Danielle's clothes, jewelry, and general appearance like an appraiser checking for value. Charlotte's friendly small talk hit a more serious interrogation. Each question came wrapped in politeness, but carried the weight of a cross-examination. Her 2 friends, Madison and Brittany, both from the same wealthy background, stood beside her like backup singers waiting for their turn. "So mysterious," Charlotte continued when Danielle's answers stayed deliberately vague. "What exactly do you do in technology?" The slight pause before the word suggested she found it hard to believe. "Strategic partnerships," Danielle offered, sipping her champagne with calculated indifference. "Oh, How interesting. For which company? Madison leaned in, her curiosity sharpened by Charlotte's obvious suspicion. Danielle met their stares with steady calm. I work with several organizations on various projects. The non-answer clearly frustrated Charlotte, who was used to direct answers and immediate recognition. In her world, important people were known quantities. Their names appeared in social lists. Their faces showed up in charity auction catalogs. Their family histories went back through generations of carefully documented privilege. That's wonderfully vague, Brittany said with a laugh that had no warmth. Are you in consulting? One of those corporate strategy firms that nobody's ever heard of? The dismissiveness in her tone might have been accidental, but Danielle doubted it. These women had been raised in places where social ranking was everything and everyone knew their place. A black woman they didn't recognize, speaking generally about technology partnerships, just didn't fit within their established framework. Something like that? Danielle replied, her voice carrying just enough amusement to suggest she was enjoying their confusion. Charlotte's frustration became more visible. She'd established her territory through this kind of social detective work for years, figuring out who belonged and who didn't, who deserved attention, and who could be safely ignored. Danielle's refusal to play along messed up the entire system. Well, however you managed to get here, I hope you're enjoying yourself, Charlotte said, her tone suggesting the enjoyment should be brief. These family events can be overwhelming for newcomers. The word family carried special weight. This wasn't just any corporate gathering. This was Charlotte's territory, her father's company, her social world. The message was clear. Danielle was an outsider in someone else's house. Oh, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, Danielle responded, her smile staying perfectly pleasant while her eyes suggested she understood the game being played. Charlotte's patience finally broke when Danielle mentioned her 8 o'clock appointment with CEO Whitmore. The claim struck her as so bold, so obviously made up, that public humiliation felt not just justified, but necessary. Excuse me, everyone, Charlotte's voice cut through the ballroom's background conversation like a knife. Heads turned with the practiced attention of people used to social drama. We have a small situation that I think needs some clarification. Danielle felt the shift in the room's energy as dozens of conversations stopped mid-sentence. The circle of watchers formed with the natural pull of curiosity, creating an impromptu stage for whatever drama was about to happen. This woman, Charlotte pointed toward Danielle with theatrical precision, has been claiming to have a business meeting with my father tonight, despite the obvious impossibility of such an arrangement. Her laugh invited the crowd to join her amusement at how ridiculous it was. Ms. Whitmore, perhaps we could discuss this privately? Privately? Charlotte's interruption was sharp and immediate. Why privately? You've made this everyone's concern by refusing to leave when politely asked. I think transparency is exactly what this situation needs. Madison and Brittany moved into position on either side, their presence providing both moral support and visual proof of Charlotte's social backing. Their faces mixed concern with barely hidden excitement, the thrill of watching social justice being delivered by one of their own. The truth is, Charlotte continued, her voice carrying the authority of someone used to being the final judge of social disputes, people like you don't just show up at events like this and expect to be welcomed. There are standards, rules, expectations about who belongs in these circles. The phrase, people like you, hung in the air like smoke, its meaning both unmistakable and legally unprovable. Several guests shifted uncomfortably, recognizing the coded language even if they chose not to challenge it. Charlotte noticed a dessert server approaching with a tray of chocolate cake slices and grabbed the moment with calculated cruelty. "Oh no," she said loudly as she deliberately bumped into the server, sending the entire tray flying toward Danielle. Rich chocolate frosting and heavy cream exploded across Danielle's elegant suit, the impact so perfectly timed it might have been planned. Gasps rippled through the crowd as dessert dripped from her jacket onto the ballroom's marble floor. I'm so sorry. Charlotte's voice dripped with fake concern. But maybe this is the universe's way of saying you should leave. When people are in the wrong place, these accidents tend to happen. Instead of anger or embarrassment, Danielle responded with a calmness that was almost supernatural. She reached for napkins from a nearby table and began cleaning the chocolate from her face with careful precision, each movement deliberate and dignified. You know, Charlotte continued, encouraged by the lack of dramatic reaction, this is exactly why we have screening processes. Some people simply don't understand appropriate boundaries. While Charlotte celebrated her victory with Madison and Brittany, Danielle quietly took out her phone. Her fingers moved with practiced efficiency across the screen, sending 2 messages that would change everything. Situation has evolved. Implement Protocol 7. Document everything. The second message went directly to Microsoft's legal team. Need immediate termination papers for Whitmore Partnership. Values incompatibility confirmed. Evidence coming. Charlotte's triumph demanded documentation. She pulled out her phone with the enthusiasm of someone about to capture a perfect social media moment, her fingers already writing the caption that would cement her victory. This is going to be perfect content, she whispered to Madison and Brittany, angling her phone to capture Danielle's dessert-stained appearance in the most unflattering way possible. Please don't photograph me without permission, Danielle said quietly, her tone reasonable but firm. Charlotte laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Permission? Sweetheart, this is consequence for your actions. Besides, we're in a public space. I can document whatever I want. The Instagram post took shape with carefully chosen words. When security standards get relaxed, #standards, private event, boundaries. Charlotte's followers would love this, a perfect example of their social circle's superior judgment protecting itself from invasion. Madison and Brittany joined the photography session enthusiastically, taking videos from multiple angles like war reporters documenting a major victory. Oh my God, this is actually hilarious, Madison giggled. She still hasn't left. The persistence is honestly disturbing, Brittany added, her own phone now recording. Like, take a hint. Charlotte decided to speak to Danielle directly with mockingly sweet concern. Honey, I know this must be embarrassing for you, but maybe it's a learning experience? About knowing your place? The condescending pet name combined with the phrase knowing your place revealed Charlotte's true character, not just privileged, but actively cruel, someone who got real pleasure from using power over others. The crowd around them grew as word spread through the ballroom. Something's happening near the entrance. Charlotte's dealing with some situation. Someone crashed the party. More guests moved toward the spectacle, creating an impromptu theater with Charlotte as both director and star. She basked in the expanded audience, feeling validated in her protective role. Everyone can see why we need better screening, she announced to the broader group, her voice carrying the satisfaction of someone who'd solved a complex problem through decisive action. An elderly businessman nodded approvingly. Young lady handled that well. Can't have just anyone walking into these events. A society woman in diamonds added her agreement. Exactly. There are procedures, hierarchies that must be maintained. Charlotte absorbed the praise like sunlight, feeling vindicated in her actions. Thank you. Someone has to maintain standards around here. She shot a satisfied look at Danielle. Some people think they can just blend in, but breeding shows. The word breeding sent an uncomfortable ripple through even her supporters. Several guests winced at the openly classist language, though none chose to intervene directly. But Charlotte's biggest mistake was yet to come. Drunk on social media potential and crowd approval, she opened Instagram Live with a title designed for maximum engagement. Gala Crasher Exposed. See what happens when security fails. Initial viewers joined immediately, 847 followers drawn by the promise of real-time drama. Charlotte felt the familiar rush of viral potential, the intoxicating sense of commanding thousands of people's attention. "Hey everyone! You won't believe what's happening at our family's gala tonight." She moved the camera from her face to Danielle, creating perfect visual contrast between victorious host and defeated interloper. "So this woman somehow got past security and has been claiming she has a business meeting with my father. When we tried to handle it nicely, she refused to leave." Comments began flooding in faster than she could read them. "OMG, what's happening? Security is so bad nowadays. Who is she, though? Why won't she just leave?" Charlotte read the most supportive comments aloud, feeding off audience engagement like a performer finding her rhythm. Sarah Ann asks, "Why won't she just leave? Great question. Some people just don't understand social cues." The viewer count climbed, 2,341 and rising. Charlotte was getting high from the viral moment, the sense of commanding a growing audience's attention and directing their outrage toward a deserving target. "And look what happened when she tried to get aggressive with me." She angled the camera to show Danielle's dessert-stained suit. "Sometimes physical consequences are the only way people learn." Madison and Brittany positioned themselves in frame like a Greek chorus, adding their commentary for the growing audience. "We tried being polite," Madison explained to the camera, "but she kept being persistent and honestly kind of aggressive." Charlotte created a hashtag in real time. #Gala Crasher, #everyone use this. Let's make sure this goes viral so other events can learn from our experience. The viewer count spiked to 8,923. Comments became increasingly harsh as the mob mentality accelerated. "She looks desperate. This is actually sad. Why is she still standing there? Security should physically remove her." Charlotte read the cruelest comments aloud, laughing at each one. Tommy NYC says she looks like she got dressed up at a thrift store. Oh my God, so accurate. The live stream had become a digital arena, with Charlotte as Empress directing thousands of viewers' ridicule toward her chosen target. She felt intoxicated by the power of it all, the ability to destroy someone's dignity in real time while building her own social media empire. "Honestly, this is the perfect example of why exclusive events exist," Charlotte preached to her camera, now broadcasting to over 15,000 viewers. "Not everyone belongs everywhere. Some people need to accept their limitations." Meanwhile, Danielle observed the entire spectacle with growing determination rather than humiliation. She was witnessing not just a personal attack, but a clear demonstration of values completely incompatible with everything Microsoft represented. Each cruel word, each mocking laugh, each discriminatory comment was being permanently recorded, perfect evidence for what was coming next. She sent one final text to her team. "Live documentation in progress. Prepare full media response. This ends tonight." Charlotte, now performing for 18,234 viewers, had no idea she was providing perfect evidence of exactly why Microsoft would terminate their relationship. Every cruel word, every mocking laugh, every discriminatory comment was being permanently recorded by her own hand. "This is honestly better than any reality show," Charlotte told her audience, her face flushed with excitement. "Real-life consequences for real behavior." At the exact moment Charlotte was explaining to her 18,234 viewers why some people need to learn their place, her phone erupted with the urgent ringtone reserved for family emergencies. The caller ID displayed "Dad, Emergency" in stark letters that cut through her social media high like ice water. Still excited from her viral moment and convinced her father was calling to congratulate her security work, Charlotte answered on speakerphone, making sure her audience could witness paternal approval of her protective instincts. "Hey, Dad! Perfect timing. I'm handling a situation you'll want to know about." Charlotte! CEO. Whitmore's voice exploded through the phone with such raw panic and fury that Charlotte's triumphant smile vanished instantly. What the hell are you doing to Dr. Harris? Microsoft's legal department just called demanding an immediate explanation. The ballroom fell into absolute silence. Charlotte's phone nearly slipped from suddenly trembling fingers. Her live stream viewers, now numbering over 20,000, began typing frantic questions. Wait, what? Is she actually a CEO? Oh shit, Charlotte. Dad? What are you talking about? I'm dealing with a party crasher who... Party crasher! Her father's voice cracked with disbelief. Dr. Danielle Harris is Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at Microsoft Corporation. She's here to sign the biggest deal in our company's history. Charlotte's face drained of all color as the reality crashed over her like a tsunami. Her mouth opened and closed soundlessly, producing no words while her mind struggled to process the magnitude of her mistake. But she can't be. She looks... Charlotte's voice trailed off as she realized she was about to complete a sentence that would destroy her even more thoroughly. She looks what, Charlotte? Her father's voice had gone beyond anger into something approaching despair. Finish that sentence. I dare you. The silence stretched across both the ballroom and the live stream, broken only by the frantic typing of thousands of viewers watching a family's destruction unfold in real time. Comments exploded across the screen. Plot twist. Charlotte is finished. $5 billion. At that precise moment, as if summoned by the conversation itself, Microsoft's advanced team entered the ballroom. James Morrison, Senior Director of Strategic Partnerships, walked through the crowd with 3 other executives, all moving with the purposeful grace of people used to high-stakes corporate theater. Dr. Harris, Morrison said with formal respect, his voice carrying easily across the silent ballroom. We've received your instructions. Legal has prepared termination documents for all Whitmore partnerships per your directive. Shall we proceed? Danielle nodded with the same calm composure she'd maintained throughout the evening's ordeal, then turned to address both the live audience and the 25,000-plus live stream viewers who were witnessing history unfold. Good evening, she said, her voice carrying the quiet authority of someone used to addressing boardrooms and congressional committees. I'm Dr. Danielle Harris, Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at Microsoft Corporation. I came here tonight to finalize a $5.2 billion partnership agreement with Whitmore Industries. The live stream viewers lost their collective minds. Comments scrolled past too fast for reading. Holy shit, $5 billion. Charlotte just destroyed her family. This is insane, Danielle continued with steady professional calm. However, after experiencing firsthand the corporate culture and values demonstrated here tonight, Microsoft has concluded that our companies are fundamentally incompatible. She reached into her briefcase, the same briefcase Charlotte had mocked earlier, and withdrew the original partnership contract. The document was thick with months of legal work, financial projections, and carefully negotiated terms representing the kind of transformative deal that defined corporate careers. This agreement, she held the contract up for both live audience and live stream viewers to see clearly, is hereby terminated. With deliberate, methodical precision, Danielle began tearing the contract apart page by page. Each tear echoed through the silent ballroom like a gunshot. Paper fell to the marble floor like snow, each piece representing millions of dollars in lost revenue, thousands of jobs that wouldn't be created, and a partnership that would now never exist. Charlotte's livestream hit 31,847 viewers as word spread across social media faster than wildfire. Gala Crasher began trending worldwide, but the meaning had completely reversed. Charlotte was now the villain in her own viral story, The immediate aftermath unfolded with the unstoppable logic of a disaster movie, each consequence triggering the next in a devastating cascade that would reshape multiple lives and destroy a corporate dynasty built over generations. CEO Whitmore burst through the ballroom doors with the desperation of a man watching his life's work crumble in real time. His face was red, his usually perfect hair messy, his expensive tuxedo wrinkled from what had clearly been a frantic rush from wherever he'd been when the news reached him. "Dr. Harris!" "Please." His voice carried across the silent ballroom with undisguised panic. "My daughter. She doesn't represent our company values. Don't let one person's mistakes destroy everything we've built." But Danielle's response was delivered with the calm finality of a judge reading a verdict. "Mr. Whitmore, this isn't about one person's mistakes. This is about systematic culture that enables discrimination. Microsoft partners only with organizations that share our commitment to dignity, respect, and inclusion." James Morrison stepped forward with additional documents, his presence adding official weight to the moment. "Dr. Harris, in addition to partnership termination, our PR department has prepared a statement about this incident. The board has authorized immediate release to all major business media outlets. Charlotte's live stream, still running with over 45,000 viewers, captured every word. She had unknowingly created the most damaging evidence possible against her own family, a real-time documentation of discriminatory behavior that would be referenced in business school case studies for decades." "Wait, I'm sorry, I didn't know." Charlotte's voice cracked as the full magnitude of her actions became clear. "Please don't destroy our family business because of my mistake." Danielle looked directly into Charlotte's phone camera, addressing both the live audience and the viral viewers who would share this moment millions of times across every social media platform. "Ms. Whitmore, true character reveals itself when people think they're interacting with someone powerless. Tonight, you showed the world exactly who you are." The financial destruction began immediately. Whitmore Industries stock, trading after hours on international markets, plummeted 28% as news alerts about the terminated Microsoft deal spread globally. The company lost $1.8 billion in market value within 6 hours, wealth simply evaporating as computer trading systems responded to the breaking news. Charlotte's personal destruction followed with equal speed. Her father, facing the potential bankruptcy of everything his family had built over 3 generations, made the brutal calculation that successful business leaders learn to make, cutting off the infected limb to save the patient. "Charlotte Whitmore is immediately removed from all company positions and responsibilities," he announced to the assembled crowd, his voice hollow with exhausted defeat. "Her trust fund is frozen pending legal review of her actions' financial impact on company stakeholders." Charlotte, who hours earlier had commanded social media attention and wielded her family name like a weapon, suddenly found herself facing financial ruin. The luxury apartment lease, expensive car payments, designer shopping habits, all funded by family wealth that had just evaporated with a few sentences. Her social circle abandoned her with the speed of people fleeing a plague. Madison and Brittany, terrified of guilt by association, began posting carefully crafted Instagram stories distancing themselves from their former friend. "We had no idea Charlotte harbored such attitudes. This doesn't represent who we are or what we believe." The social media destruction was perhaps the most complete. # Gala Crasher trended #1 worldwide, but the meaning had been entirely reversed. Charlotte became a cautionary tale about privilege, discrimination, and consequences, with TikTok videos analyzing her behavior racking up millions of views within hours. Her Instagram followers, built over years of carefully curated lifestyle content, collapsed from 2.8 million to under 400,000 in 48 hours. Every brand partnership, sponsored post, and influencer collaboration was terminated immediately as companies fled from association with what the media had dubbed the most expensive temper tantrum in corporate history. comedy shows picked up the story with ruthless efficiency. Saturday Night Live announced a sketch called Cake Face Charlotte, featuring her as a bumbling villain who destroys her family fortune with dessert and discrimination. The sketch wouldn't air for days, but the announcement alone generated another wave of viral mockery. Within the elite social circles, Charlotte had navigated her entire life. She became persona non grata overnight. Private clubs revoked memberships, charity organizations removed her from boards, and society events that had once competed for her attendance now treated her name like a disease. The legal consequences arrived with the methodical precision of corporate law enforcement. Microsoft's legal team, working with civil rights organizations, filed discrimination complaints with the New York State Human Rights Division and the Federal Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. 3 former Whitmore Industries employees came forward with similar stories about Charlotte's treatment of minorities, creating a pattern that would fuel years of legal proceedings. 1 year later, the Whitmore Industries bankruptcy filing made front-page news in the Financial Times. A company that had survived recessions, market crashes, and industry transformations finally collapsed under the weight of one daughter's prejudice, taking with it hundreds of jobs and millions in pension funds. Charlotte herself, stripped of family wealth and social connections, found work as a social media coordinator for a small nonprofit organization, a position that paid $35,000 annually and required her to take public transportation to a shared workspace in Queens. The irony of managing social media for an organization dedicated to fighting discrimination wasn't lost on anyone, though Charlotte attacked the work with what seemed like genuine remorse. 6 months after what business historians would call the Whitmore incident, Dr. Danielle Harris sat in the comfortable Seattle offices of Microsoft Corporation, preparing for what would become one of the most watched corporate leadership interviews in recent memory. The CBS Sunday morning cameras captured her against a backdrop of innovation awards and diversity recognition plaques, visual testimony to a career built on both excellence and principle. "People often ask if I feel satisfaction about what happened to Whitmore Industries," Danielle began, her voice carrying the same composed authority that had commanded respect in that metropolitan ballroom. "Honestly, I feel sadness more than vindication. Sadness that in 2025 we still encounter such blatant discrimination. Sadness that talented employees lost their jobs because one person's prejudice destroyed an entire company." The interviewer leaned forward with the intensity of someone who understood the historical significance of the moment. Walking away from $5.2 billion couldn't have been easy from a business perspective. "It was the easiest business decision I've ever made," Danielle responded without hesitation. "Microsoft's values aren't negotiable items in a corporate contract. We would rather forgo the most profitable partnerships than compromise our principles about human dignity. Money earned through relationships that tolerate discrimination is money we simply don't want in our portfolio." She paused, choosing her words with the precision of someone who understood that this interview would be studied in business schools and quoted in corporate ethics training for decades to come. That night represented everything wrong with unchecked privilege in corporate America. Charlotte felt entitled to judge, humiliate, and dismiss someone based purely on assumptions about race and social class. Her behavior wasn't an accident. It was the logical product of a system that had never held her accountable for treating people with basic disrespect. The interview explored the broader implications of the incident, touching on systematic racism in corporate America and the responsibility of business leaders to create inclusive environments. Danielle's responses revealed someone who had spent considerable time thinking about these issues long before they became viral social media content. "What happened to me that night happens to countless people every day, usually without cameras rolling or live streams broadcasting," she explained. People of color, women, anyone considered different, face similar treatment in corporate settings, social situations, and everyday interactions. The only difference was that Charlotte's arrogance led her to document her own discrimination in real time. When asked if she regretted the dramatic nature of her response, Danielle's answer carried the weight of someone who had made peace with difficult choices. Sometimes dramatic action is necessary to create meaningful change. If this incident makes even one executive reconsider their unconscious biases, if it makes one company strengthen their anti-discrimination policies, then something positive emerged from an incredibly negative experience. Her message to viewers who might have faced similar discrimination was direct and empowering. For anyone who's ever been told you don't belong, you belong everywhere. Your talents, character, and hard work can take you. Don't let anyone's limited imagination define your potential or limit your ambitions. The interview concluded with Danielle's reflection on corporate leadership in an era where social media could amplify both the best and worst of human behavior. Real leadership isn't about having power over others. It's about using whatever influence you have to lift people up, to create opportunities, to build bridges rather than walls. That night, Charlotte had family wealth, social connections, and millions of followers. But she lacked something more valuable than any of those advantages: basic human decency. The interview's final moments captured something that business leadership experts would analyze for years afterward: the quiet authority of someone who had turned personal humiliation into a teaching moment for corporate America. Every day, each of us faces choices about how we treat others, Danielle said, looking directly into the camera with the kind of steady gaze that had commanded boardrooms and congressional hearings. Will we judge people by their appearance or by their character? Will we use our privileges to include others or to exclude them? Will we speak up against discrimination or stay silent for the sake of comfort? Her smile carried just a hint of the satisfaction that comes from justice served, though her words remained focused on positive change rather than personal vindication. Charlotte Whitmore learned a $5.2 billion lesson about the consequences of choosing the wrong side of history. But you don't have to learn the expensive way. The camera captured her leaning forward slightly, the gesture transforming the interview from corporate statement into personal conversation with millions of viewers. Next time you see someone being underestimated, be their ally. Next time you witness prejudice disguised as social standards, speak up. Next time you have the power to open doors rather than slam them shut, choose inclusion. Her final words carried the gentle irony of someone who had emerged victorious from a battle she never wanted to fight. Remember, the person you dismissed today, based on assumptions about their background or appearance, might hold the key to your tomorrow. Just ask Charlotte Whitmore. I'm sure she'd be happy to explain how that works. The screen faded to black with a simple message that would be shared across social media platforms millions of times. Dignity is priceless, but prejudice costs everything. In corporate boardrooms across America, executives would reference the Whitmore incident when discussing diversity initiatives and inclusive leadership training. Business schools would add it to their ethics courses as a case study in how personal bias can destroy shareholder value. And in a small Queens office, Charlotte Whitmore would continue her work advocating for the very people she had once tried to exclude, carrying the weight of a $5.2 billion lesson that changed not just her life, but the conversation about power, privilege, and justice in corporate America forever.